The underground breathed with the steady rush of trains, while 3 garnet otters treated the tunnels like home. Taser kept brass river goggles on his brow and a tiny waterproof notebook strapped to his forearm, his left kinked whiskers twitching with each idea. Rita moved in quick, precise lines, a tin of chalk clacking against a coil of twine at her side. Wendell, stockier and soft-coated, tapped rhythms on driftwood, his satchel of marbles and odd screws clinking with each step. They worked as co-conspirators and maintenance, fixing leaks and snarls before notices arrived. Taser argued for precision, Rita pushed for people-first decisions, and Wendell listened for the rhythm of trouble. Their habits balanced the system, each approach shoring up the others under pressure. The berry-dyed tip of Wendell's tail bobbed to a private beat. Their long-running disagreement added fizz to the air like a busy track. On breaks, Taser insisted cereal was not a soup, because soups were savory and built from broth. Rita countered that breakfast soup counted because milk was broth enough in her book. Wendell reminded them that hungry problem solvers were clumsy, nudging them towards snacks before the next fix. Steve, a navy squirrel with a split-tip tail, zipped in as their sidekick. His acorn-shaped messenger bag squeaked, and the charcoal smudge on his nose looked permanent. He spoke in fast, dry bursts like station stops lists, then crashed into slapstick at the worst moments he called character development. The otters accepted his energy like a fourth tool in the kit. An old scar on the city's memory shaped the tunnels. Years back, a flock of birds had blotted out the sky for an afternoon, and the underground became sanctuary. Since then, the subway served as community, theater, market, refuge, and museum. If roller skates ever replaced shoes without consent down there, chaos would multiply on every platform. On a mezzanine near Central Concourse, a human Italian pizza chef twirled dough high and caught it with ease. Flour sparkled in station lights as he slid pies into a brick oven that glowed like a cig in the lamp. He hummed, spun another disc, and worked without a glance from the stream of passers-by. The quiet craft carried on unnoticed. Trouble rode in on a glittered breeze. Countess Lopula, a cyan butterfly with baroque wings, a ribboned cravat, and a tiny monocle, floated in with her siblings Victor and Victoria. They led the transit-style authority with real access and preening power, leaving a scented trail that treated air like a runway. The concourse hushed as color and perfume arrived. Their intention was not subtle. The Countess murmured before each flourish about proving she was not a disappointment to her mother. Victor blurted that exact promise when plans grew complex, and Victoria whispered pep talks like marching orders. They intended to force a graceful, gliding city to make their mother proud and cement their rule. Victor had the mechanics on a blueprint folded 5 times and wrapped at his waist. He slipped microinverters into ventilation trunks and mixed charged glitter that ionized into wheels on rubber soles with a citrus scent. Victoria scheduled rush hour releases, and the Countess prepared a gala to unveil a new era of glide. It was a plan built to impress and to control. The first consequence hit like a dropped cymbal. At Platform L, commuters jolted into uncontrolled rolls, knocking columns, posters, and a fruit cart while a jazz trio spun in confusion. Signs clattered and a stroller scraped a bench before a stranger safely caught it. The butterflies hovered above, pleased to see the world as their ice rink without ice. The otters confronted the butterflies by a humming control cabinet, paws braced and whiskers stiff. Taser said, "Your vents are weapons now. Shut them down." The Countess answered that fashion demanded sacrifice and that mother would hear about such boldness, waving her monocle like a gavel. Rita pulled Taser back and hissed, "We fix this the smart way." Down a ladder behind a mural, rumors thudded from Lane 9, a shabby bowling alley carved into an old maintenance chamber. The Oxford Blue Jackrabbits Leslie, Frank, and Esther claimed the curse had twisted every strike into splits and bent every spare. They knew every slick and scuff, but refused to help until the curse lifted. Their knowledge could tip the balance if freed. On Platform M, 2 ghost tour guides bickered over turf with fog and flashlights. Their machines tangled, while each claimed exclusive rights to the haunted escalator by the echoing underpass. Steve said in deadpan, "Ghosts should buy tickets in advance," then tripped over a cable, spilling marbles that skittered like startled mice. The feud sputtered on through haze and clatter. High on the mezzanine, the butterflies preened and pitched their future. Victoria held a clipboard with colored tabs and declared the Glide Gala would begin at dusk. Victor refolded maps into a neat V and said victory would be symmetrical. Taser called it reckless to force wheels on people, and the Countess smiled thinly. She said, "The city will thank us for culture." By afternoon, the Cyan trio held the upper hand. Glitter hissed from vents across 3 stations, and shoes butted wheels with a quiet click that grew into uproar. People slid and clutched pillars. Some laughed, many cried out, and the platform edge turned dangerous. The Countess treated the noise like applause and said, "Glide or be left behind." The grip tightened. Victor locked the control room with a magnetic code and a smug nod. Victoria timed releases so a fresh wave hit as the last recovered, keeping fear high. Security was told over the public address to assist the authority, and the butterflies claimed the microphones. The otters felt the helplessness of being talked over in their own house. Like, subscribe, and comment the word slop to keep the story rolling. Your support helps more underground adventures reach the surface. Tap the buttons, type slop, and ride with us through the rest of the chaos. Taser proposed a relay hack, and they hustled to try. Rita chalked a diagram on a poster back, while Wendell tapped a steady beat to keep timing tight. Steve wedged a panel open with a doorstop and said in deadpan, "Heroes seldom have enough hands." Then he slipped, the doorstop fell, and the panel slammed his fingers. He yelped and smashed an emergency fan, blasting glitter that turned their soft-soled slippers into hazards. Bruised and stung with glitter, they retreated. Countess Lopula drifted above and said, "This amateur performance deserves a 2 out of 10, before floating away. A child sobbed while a parent pinballed off a bench. Wanda the janitor shook her head and told them to eat a snack before arguing as the cereal debate flared again in frustration. They tried words next at a service hatch where Victor hovered like a stamped seal. Taser said, "You can't prove you're worthy by endangering everyone." Victor blurted, "This will prove I'm not a disappointment," and slapped a decoy vent switch. Glitter showered again, forcing the otters to scramble into a storage alcove, coughing and angry. The butterflies tightened their hold with a skating clinic in Central Concourse. They handed out pamphlets on graceful form, threatened fines for non-gliders, and posed for photos to seed their legend. The city swayed to their tune, and the otters realized they needed help. They had authority, optics, and momentum against them. They went back to lane 9 and found to spare set like hard wax. Leslie rubbed a scuffed bowling ball and said the curse made champions look silly. Frank pointed to spectral chalk marks on the ceiling and said, it was definitely supernatural. Esther insisted they would not step outside until someone broke the spell that humiliated them nightly. Steve crouched by the ball return and said in deadpan, "The machine holds grudges." He yanked the wrong lever and got whacked in the shins by a loose bumper, then pinwheeled into a mop bucket that rolled him into a set of pins. The pins collapsed with a final thunk that made the lights flicker. The rapids shouted the curse was fighting back, and Wendell helped Steve up by the elbow, saying, "Maybe it just needs a careful listen." Back on a dim platform, they watched a grandmother slide past with a cat carrier lifted high. The city felt like a roller rink nobody asked for, laughter skimming over fear. Taser stared at empty notebook squares and felt useless. Rita's reed bracelet rattled with each fidget, and Wendell's tail tip traced berry lines on tile as he paced. Stress sharpened their argument until it cut. Rita said, "Milk is a broth if comfort is the point, and soup is comfort. So cereal is a soup." Case closed. Taser snapped. Definitions must be precise. Imprecision blows fuses, and words matter as much as wires right now. Wendell tapped a slow beat and tried to calm them, his voice cracking, and Steve crunched a granola bar to lighten the mood. They approached lane 9 with method instead of bravado. Rita chalked control points on the floor and watched the chalk curl. Wendell rolled marbles and tracked their slow drift. Taser tightened his goggles and peered into vents. They found fog condensing on hidden ductwork, dripping into the lane and skewing oil patterns so every ball would veer. In a side tunnel, they found the ghost tour guides mid-feud at the bird blot exhibit. Taser said, "Your duct-taped feud rerouted fog into a bowling alley and is breaking a community you could help." Rita chalked a true schedule and pointed at separate ducts, and both guides grudgingly nodded. Steve tried to help, deadpanning, "Ghosts require union breaks," then switched both fog machines on and vanished in mist, stumbling out wearing a sandwich board. At Reed asked me about haunted ventilation. They retaped ducts, set fog times that avoided games, and dried the lane with borrowed fans. The jackrabbits tested and balls rolled straight into satisfying strikes that echoed like applause. Leslie declared the curse broken. Frank high-fived to Rivet, and Esther said they were in with both paws. Gratitude lifted their ears high. The rabbits laid out what they could bring. Leslie said, "We manage traction, rosin, and non-slip." Frank said, "We lay patterns that change how people move." Esther added, "We run limbo contests and we are very, very hard to beat." Wendell remembered the butterflies hesitated at a low turnstile, and Steve recalled a poster with the Countess flaunting a limbo laureate ribbon. Step by step, they reasoned the butterflies could not resist a limbo challenge while the otters reversed vent polarity to neutralize the charged glitter. Word spread through newly cooperative ghost tour lists. Janitors with brooms joined, station musicians offered tempo, and a grumpy sandbag vendor rolled over stock. The jackrabbits began laying anti-roll mats near dangerous edges. A plan felt real as people did what they did best together. Frank and Esther dusted platform edges with rosin to anchor fearful feet. Leslie chalked a glowing limbo line and set a bar with a portable arch ratcheting lower. Wendell rolled marbles to test for unintended roll while Rita measured heights with twine and marked screw heads in the control room. Taser mapped which relays fed which vents, building the path to a clean reversal when the moment came. Steve hijacked the public address by clipping his squeaky acorn bag to a panel he swore was a microphone. He announced, in rapid deadpan, that the first annual Underground Limbo Championship would award a ribbon to impress any mother and any board of directors. The words echoed with just enough reverb to sound official. Countess Slopula stopped mid-glide and asked, "Where do I register?" They gathered under a mural of rail lines like river forks. Countess Slopula fluffed her cravat and said she would judge if she were not indisputably competing. Victoria aligned her clipboard with tiles and insisted on symmetrical scoring. Victor said, "Victory will prove me." Taser nodded solemnly toward the arch while Rita fussed with lights and, behind the bustle, loosened panel screws for quick entry. The crowd swelled in eager circles as the guides, now cooperative, used lanterns to carve safe zones and called out exits in soothing whispers. Wendell tapped a trash can in a rolling clave to build suspense. The jackrabbits bounced with bright ears like metronomes, ready at the limbo arch. Anticipation tightened like a drumhead across the concourse. And now a word from our sponsor. Hypernova Core presents the non-plus-ultra, the only supplement proudly guaranteed to do absolutely nothing so you can focus on the real mess, like spilling laundry, detergent everywhere. Imagine scooping neon blue goo off your stairs while your shoes grow wheels. With a non-plus ultra, at least your vitamins won't complicate it. No jitters, no side effects, no results, pure peace of mind. Use code SLOP for 0% off because nothing should change, especially your budget. Back to the action. Behind a pillar, Tater tightened his goggles and showed Rita a sketch of the trunk line culvert to flip. Wendell checked his bundle of labeled replacement relays. Steve climbed a wobbly ladder to reroute the PA feed to a maintenance channel, so commands would carry quietly. They nodded once like divers before a plunge and moved. The limbo began to music from a busker who smelled like cinnamon. Countess Slopula skimmed under the first bar so smoothly her velvet wings barely rustled, leaving scented glitter that made onlookers sigh. Victoria followed in a ruler straight line, calculating angles as she slid. Victor, flushed, yelled, "This will do it for Mother," and wobbled through as the crowd hooted. While the butterflies focused on applause, Rita and Wendell slipped into the loosened panel. With Leslie on lookout, they swapped Victor's microinverters for dummy fuses and traced which colored leads fed which vents. Rita measured twice with twine and chalk changes for quick reversal if needed. Above, Steve narrated deadpan about elegant doorstops, then dropped a doorstop on his foot and hissed, "Oh." Taser pried open the main vent trunk and found the master inverter. He flipped to a notebook page sketched during their darkest hour, and reversed polarity so charged glitter would fizzle instead of ionizing rubber into wheels. He drew a breath, thought of the grandmother with the cat carrier, and threw the switch. Then coughed, then settled, and a nearby cluster of rolling feet clicked back to firm steps. The bar dropped again to gasps. Countess Lopula demanded one more round to secure a headline and waved for silence she took as adoration. The jackrabbit spread a subtler rosin coat that favored walkers over sliders. Victor sprinted, wobbled, and dipped with a triumphant wee. Scraping beneath the bar, Rita flashed a signal with her reed bracelet. Taser threw the last cut-off lever, sending the reversal across the tunnel web. Leslie blew a whistle for sudden death limbo with the bar skimming the floor. The butterflies, unable to resist their compulsion, murmured about not disappointing Mother and committed to the lowest pass. They slid in a synchronized blue streak as their power unraveled. Charged glitter fizzled to nothing and tool belts sagged. Victoria's clipboard rattled to the floor and Victor's folded maps fluttered into the crowd. Countess Lopula rose and blinked, finding the audience standing steady on rubber soles. The myth of glide control dissolved under plane traction. Security officers, alerted by janitors and guides over the maintenance channel, stepped in with steady hands. The Countess tried to call a glide retreat, but without the echoing PA her voice sounded small. Victor lunged for a panel and hit a patch of bowling rosin, tumbling safely into a mat barricade. Victoria stumbled into Rita's twine and wrapped herself neatly. The deputy commissioner arrived and announced the butterflies were stripped of authority and would face public consequences. With the vent network normalized, shoes returned to shoes. People tested steps, laughed in relief, and helped one another to benches. Wendell and the jackrabbits moved like a tidy crew, sweeping up rosin and folding mats with crisp corners. Rita chalked new signs to exits and safe routes while Taser reprogrammed ventilation timers to ignore unauthorized glitter signals. The ghost tour guides added grace to the cleanup. They used the lanterns to lead people through dim corridors during a brief blackout and told warm, practiced stories that kept kids calm. They set fog machines to low to highlight lingering glitter plumes so maintenance could vacuum them fast. The Otter set a simple rotating schedule for the haunted escalator, which the guys signed like a peace treaty. A public hearing unfolded right on the platform with a microphone that squeaked less than Steve's bag. Community members described bruises, fear, and how their home had been used against them. The Countess, Victor, and Victoria were banned from any transit role. Their glitter was confiscated and repurposed into reflective safety paint for stair edges, and they were assigned months of platform cleaning under supervision, with no audience and no ribbons. At the Burge Blot Memorial, the tour feud ended with a small ceremony. The guides posted a shared schedule and vowed in dueling whispers to honor the day the flock had once darkened the sky without blocking a single bowling lane ever again. Steve cut a ribbon with safety scissors, said, "The ghosts have union cards now," and fell back into a laundry cart. He popped up and flashed a thumbs up through the canvas as laughter rolled like a friendly train. Later, in a quiet maintenance nook that smelled of warm ballast and orange peels, the cereal debate returned softer. Rita said she stirred cereal like soup when anxious because naming it that calmed her. Taser said he liked the argument because it forced him to define things before he soldered. Wendell said maybe the right answer was eat first, fix second, label later. Steve ate cereal dry and said, "It's trail mix," drawing groans and a reluctant laugh from Taser. New rules went up on bright boards forbidding unauthorized style mandates and capping glitter at festive, never functional. The Jackrabbits signed a contract to manage traction and coordinate safe crowd games at rush hours, including limbo breaks with caution tape and cheerful supervision. A limbo bar hung in central concourse with a plaque thanking everyone who helped. Kids practiced while trains hummed and parents chatted without fear. The otters made amends small and large. They restacked the fruit vendors' oranges and fixed a bent sign. The vendor said, "You walk better on ground than on wheels today." "Bless you." Wanda the janitor gave Steve a spare glove for his bruised fingers, which he wore like a trophy. The station felt like a family kitchen again instead of a rickety stage. They loaded the maintenance cart with empty sandbags and neatly coiled twine and set off for a slow patrol. Steve retold the day in fast, deadpan blurts. "We limboed the monarchy. We unthistled glitter. We unionized ghosts, then stumbled as the cart lurched and caught himself with a theatrical bow." The Jackrabbits peeled off toward Lane 9, promising a championship limbo night with careful rosin and fair judges. Under the sky that birds once darkened, the underground steadied and shone, ready for whatever rolled their way next. All the slop in this video was generated using AI. This is a simple disclaimer to inform, not to celebrate technology. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment the word slop to keep these stories flowing.